Assalamu alaikum. Peace be upon you. Bismillah, alhamdulillah, salatu wassalamu ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. We have been talking about man's perfection, excellence, kamal, being the reason for his creation, upon which he will know his purpose in lectures of the past. But what are the dynamics behind it? Well, first we need to get to know mankind. Once we understand what mankind is, his nature and his construct, we then understand what his perfection is and what is the path to his perfection, completion, or kamal. That is, until we understand a subject matter, a topic, a phenomena, we cannot understand its perfection or what makes it complete. So what is a human being? The answer we might hear is that man is made up of a physical body with limbs, eyes, ears, mouth, along with organs inside it, like the heart, the brain, etc. However, if all these parts are lost or cease to operate, or the whole physical body drops or dies away, is the person gone? Is it the end of his existence? Of course not. The soul remains and continues, as we extensively discussed in a lecture called Reality of Death. If we assume the soul did not exist, then of course, once the physical body, which is a mass of flesh, dies, that would be the end of it, or its finality. So, the man's being and reality is his soul, his spirit. Man's whole being and person, character, and traits come from his soul. Simply put, it is my soul and my consciousness that makes me who I am. And it is your soul and consciousness that makes you who you are as a person. That which makes me exclusively me and makes you exclusively you. Hence, every human being has his or her own exclusive identity, character, self-awareness, and personality. This is true even for 100% identical twins who have their own personality, trait, and consciousness. Once we understand this, we then must understand what are the essential elements or dimensions within the soul, spirit, ruh. These dimensions or elements must be general in form so that all human souls contain these components. What are these components? There are three fundamental components within man's soul. First one is the awareness or consciousness, meaning I am aware of myself or conscious of myself and my presence, as well as others. So do every human being. If you take this element away from a living being, it becomes an unconscious material, like a piece of rock, which is not aware of itself or its own presence. The second element is man's will, irada. Without irada, mankind is immobilized. He can be aware of his own presence and others, but cannot act or execute any actions. So irada is another major component within man's soul. Man's free will is contingent upon his irada, will, without which he has no free will or becomes like a machine or a programmed entity. The third fundamental component is feeling and affection. If a man is knowledgeable, has self-awareness, and has free will as well, but has no feeling or affection, he would then be inhuman. A person has love and affection toward many things, like one's parents, spouse, children, community members, co-religionists, or any member of human race. And of course, for a believer, وَالَّذِينَ آمَنُوا أَشَدُّ حُبًّا لِلَّهِ. And those who believe are stronger in love for Allah. Without this affection, the person becomes a dry, mechanical, and indifferent being. These fundamental elements or components make up a triangle within man's being and soul. Man's awareness or consciousness, man's will, and man's affection. These are the essential components within man's being which need to reach perfection, kamal, excellence. Now, where do we get the information or instruction on how we nurture and grow these elements to kamal? It is through the scriptures that we receive these instructions and recipe to reach our excellence. That is the job of the holy books which are sent down by the divine creator who designed us and knows how we operate. The Quran has a segment of its instructions dedicated to build irada, will, part of the element. For example, it describes fasting as a pillar of Islam in order to strengthen one's will, which will then result in taqwa, God consciousness. Eating food is not a bad thing, but you fast so something beyond your physical body is strengthened, which is your will, irada. Other acts of worship, like waking up early in the morning before the sunrise, leaving the comfort of the bed to wash up and pray, is another exercise in strengthening one's will. As a result of establishing prayer, man's taqwa also increases. As the Quran puts it, إِنَّ الصَّلَاةَ تَنْهَى عَنِ الْفَحْشَاءِ وَالْمُنكَرِ. Indeed, prayer keeps one away from indecency and wrongdoing. Other pillars of Islam or acts of worship strengthen believers' consciousness, will, and of course, affection or dedication toward Allah Azza wa Jal. And as a result of it, affection toward His creation. Of course, the concept of worship in Islam is extended beyond the rituals and acts of worship, rather a way of life. But the rituals like prayer, fasting, giving, pilgrimage, and the resulting taqwa are supposed to help the believer get closer to the Creator and means to reach his kamal. In fact, one can say the purpose of man's creation is to reach the kamal, completion, excellence God intended for him or her. If someone asks you, what is your purpose in this life on earth? You answer it with this question. When you plant a seed in the soil, what is your intention and aim? He will say, so it reaches its potential, which is to become a tree or a plant and bear fruit someday. We, the mankind, are just like that seed, full of potential, full of various capabilities and talents, such as learning, gaining knowledge, and getting to know the Creator through all that which He has created in and around us. God did not create us and expect us to reach excellence if He did not put that potential, that capability in us to be fully God-centric, by which all of us qualify to reach such point of perfection, hence success, which is the final goal. The Quran has verses about self-awareness, as well as awareness of one's surrounding, including other people, and finally, God consciousness. Many verses ending with statements like, so that you may think, so that you may reflect or ponder, so that you may understand, so that you may gain knowledge. Furthermore, it instructs to gain knowledge not just through the Quranic verses, but also to gain knowledge of things of nature. قل انظروا ماذا في السماوات والأرض وما تغني الآيات والنذر عن القوم لا يؤمنون. Say, oh, observe what is in the heavens and earth, but neither signs nor warnings help the unbelievers. قل سيروا في الأرض فانظروا كيف بدأ الخلق. Travel in the land and see how he originated creation. Man learns and discovers how this vast nature created and originated by God operates. And this observation should add even more to his faith in God and lead him to innovate and make new discoveries. As a result, he concludes that it is God who is all-encompassing and has power over all things. Otherwise, he could not be the creator. When man makes this most important discovery and starts thinking this way, he will start ascending toward a higher state of mind and consciousness. His thoughts are no longer bound by worldly and earthly preoccupations and obsessions. Hence, mankind reaches his kamal, peak of perfection, and complete humanity when he turns his attention to the being who is above and beyond everything, the supreme being, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That said, mankind is not always in the same state of mind. Sometimes he rises and sometimes he falls or declines. That is where the adhkar, remembrance of God, and daily acts of worship like prayer play a major role in keeping man's consciousness of his creator, take him to a higher level, or at least keep it from declining so he remains godly and spiritual more often than not. Another example of virtues is giving. When man sacrifices from that which he loves and shares it with another human being, he rises and ascends to a higher position where he belongs, which is his humanity. And the higher he goes, the closer he gets to his excellence, his completion, kamal. This is a spiritual reasoning for his feeling good when he gives. And of course, there are psychological and moral reasons as well. By giving, a human being feels himself rising above the material belonging and dependency. So much so, he's willing to forego part of his wealth that belongs to this material world. So the Quran takes awareness, knowledge, and consciousness to a wide range of connotations. Then, of course, affection is also seen throughout the Quran, ranging from loving and affection through kindness toward one's kinfolks, to one's co-religionists, to community members, neighbors, and ultimately love for God stronger than anything and anyone, because it is through loving God one can truly love others. وَالَّذِينَ آمَنُوا أَشَدُّ حُبًّا لِلَّهِ. And those who believe are stronger in love for Allah. So, 3 dimensions: awareness, will, and affection constitute foundation of man's soul. All other dimensions can fit within or come under these 3 fundamental components, which make mankind human beings. For example, the more a person is conscious of himself and his surrounding, the stronger is his will. And of course, the more taqwa, God consciousness, he will have. Religions, especially Islam, then have a role which is to give instructions as well as incentives to strengthen one's consciousness, will, and affection. So man's life becomes godlier and livelier. Things like justice, self-sacrifice, mercy, taqwa, keeping one's duty toward God and others are all results of these three, or the triangle. As such, we see the Quran is a school of tarbiyah, training, first and foremost. Once one strengthens these three elements through the Quranic instructions and graduates from this school, he has then reached his kamal, excellence, upon which he can be a true servant of God as intended, which is also the reason for our creation, to worship and serve Allah, and in doing so reach our kamal, excellence. As an ummah or community, we may not reach that ideal society and governance we're all after and love to have. But rest assured, as individuals, we can still reach our completion because the first priority is to serve ourselves and our families. Save ourselves and our family. Ya ayyuhal ladhina amanu qu anfusakum wa ahlikum. O you who believe, save yourselves and your families. Of course, for a materialist, soul and these elements are dimensions we have been talking about, are not understood. And to them, everything is physical or material. So to them, when the body perishes, the person perishes or disappears to non-existence. Now, regarding self-awareness, we said the difference between a dead body and a live body is that the live body can feel its existence, understand its state of being and surroundings. A piece of rock does not feel itself or does not realize its own existence. It is not self-aware. A living body can separate itself from others and feel independent of others, at the same time aware of itself. I am, hence I exist. A living body establishes connections with others, be it living thing or not. Living bodies consume or produce things and make connections. بل الإنسان على نفسه بصيرة. Rather, people are well aware of themselves. They are witnesses against their own souls. The ta at the end of basira is for the emphasis, meaning insan, mankind, can see himself very well. He's well aware of himself. Otherwise, he would be just like a piece of rock. So from there, his living continues until he gets to his intellectual life, where he emerges as a decision maker when he is presented with choices. He looks at all that is presented to him, analyzes, and then selects based on his intellect. Among all the deeds, a'mal, he chooses one of them. الذي خلق الموت والحياة ليبلوكم أيكم أحسن عملا. He who created death and life so that he may try and test which of you is best in deeds, in conduct. To try, to test means to choose, meaning free will, to select. ليبلوكم أيكم أحسن عملا. Therefore, this is where humanity of mankind emerges. Otherwise, on the basic instinct level, before graduating to human level, we're all animals at best, as we breathe, eat, sleep, procreate, etc., just like animals. Once the man chooses which action to take, his will, irada, kicks in, and he executes his will. Now, how do we examine these selections, like the good from bad, right from wrong, which for man are the criterion, basis for his humanity? Does one who studies years and becomes a great chemist or mathematician or a physicist or a philosopher reach to the point of completion, kamal, that God intended for him? Not necessarily. It is true that he has gained some knowledge of physical nature, but because he did not seek the divine goal, he has not reached the point of kamal, completion. Why did you go and get a higher education? Well, to get a degree. To do what? To teach or get a job so I can receive a paycheck and be able to buy food and housing and to provide for myself and satisfy my wants and desires. Well, then, if that is the case, you are basically feeding your animal instincts, needs, same way as animals do. They do not even have to go through school or get a degree. Their final goal comes back to satisfying your instinct. Because in your gaining knowledge, there is no higher goal, one that is above and beyond the material. Therefore, you are a materialistic being. It's just that an animal satisfies himself in one way through his instinct, and you do it another way by, establishing your intellect as basis to circle back and satisfy your basic needs and instinct. Your education is to serve a material purpose, to get a paycheck and make a provision and comfort for yourself. And that's it. Therefore, if man does not strive to reach a higher goal in this life, one beyond the physical needs, he has not reached his humanity. And he circles back to his animalistic instincts. An animal does it even easier without the pain of going through hardship, studying, schooling, etc. Therefore, the God-given ability to learn and gain knowledge must be used beyond just to get a job and a paycheck. It is so amazing that one should neglect such an obvious and clear point. Many scholars and scientists who are authorities in their fields neglect this, neglect having a higher goal, one that is above and beyond material. But the one who wants to get close to his Creator is willing to go beyond the material and unwilling to commit any injustice or wrongdoing for the sake of material gains. Those who are close to Allah, like the companions of the Prophet, peace be upon him, are willing to sacrifice. وَيُؤْثِرُونَ عَلَىٰ أَنفُسِهِمْ وَلَوْ كَانَ بِهِمْ خَصَاصَةٌ, and prefer them above themselves, even though they themselves have a need. They put others ahead of themselves, even though they may have needs of their own. Along the same lines, Prophet, peace be upon him, said that in order for someone to reach his kamal, completion, he must overlook and forgive those who have wronged him. And when in fact he has the power to take revenge, he forgives. Or if he's asked to give, he gives even to those who didn't give him when he was in need. If one takes revenge, he has satisfied his anger, or he has basically taken a revenge on the basis of his instinct. However, if one looks the other way and forgives, that is going beyond his instinct and reaching the peak of his humanity. Furthermore, he does not make that person feel obligated or in debt to him. I asked to borrow some money from you last year and you did not give it to me. Now that you need money, I will give it to you. At the same time, you do not remind them or make them feel in debt to you. As such, you have entered the state of humanity. When one enters such humanity, such a kamal, he needs an authority, marja', or a source to return to, a reference. Otherwise, why would a person forego his interest, sacrifice his interest? For what? He has to believe in something above and beyond the material, something divine, so that such belief manifests itself in his character, his a'mal, deeds. Therefore, one of faith's roles is to play down the material world and keep it down and turn man's focus to that which is above the material world. This is not to say that we should abandon the material world. In fact, we should reach to the point we are financially secure, so we depend on no one's help. It is rather to bring in focus other meaningful things in life that are beyond the material, but at the same time have the upper hand financially to provide for our families and live among people, deal with them. However, not go along with anything that may be immoral or considered as bad conduct. Interconnect with people and our surrounding, but with open eyes, and not get mixed or preoccupied with something that is of little or no long-term benefit for us, nor to indulge as if there is no tomorrow. Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib said about such folks, their heart is with Allah and their deed is with people. Means they work with people, interact with them, but their heart is with Allah. Whatever they do it to please Allah. Their Creator is their top priority. In their whole being, there is a divine goal they're trying to achieve, as opposed to those who don't have such a higher goal. Consequently, their deeds, amal, will be different. One has to aim for success and paradise by not just correct belief, but also good, righteous deeds. The criterion is not claims, but deeds, actions. To that end, you can be sure that nothing, no book or person has provided the answers and spelled it out like the Quran has. In any case, there are two extremes. One where people turn to spirituality to get their key questions answered. And in the process, some find the divine goal and what their mission is in this short journey called life. And in the process, they find what is the real living and how to live with peaceful heart while achieving that higher goal. They will realize while we scramble to satisfy our hunger, our thirst, and all other physical needs, there's also a need to satisfy our hearts and soul by having such higher goals. On the other extreme, people who think this life is all there is, they think one must indulge in whatever comes along and satisfy one's needs in any way possible. By the way, from the Quranic perspective, this world is an inseparable part of a continuum, a unified whole, which is life, death, then life again, which gives our life a context and a relevance. In this context, the life of the individual is made meaningful and enriched when it is full of good works. Life in this world leads to the afterlife, a belief which is fundamental in the Quran. That is, the afterlife is not treated in the Quran as in a separate chapter or as something on its own, but always in relation to life in this world. It is the goal of reaching one's perfection, kamal, in this life that prepares us for an everlasting, blissful life of hereafter. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.